Shoot, forgot one last thing. Sorry about that, guys. I started without updating the clock. That was my fault. If you are tuning into the stream and you have any or if you're watching after the stream goes live and you have any questions, you can always leave them in the chat or in the comments, and I will gladly answer in the next video updates. And if you have any questions right now, you can always ask, and I will answer them later in the stream. I'm currently going to share it real quick, and then we'll get right into it. Alright, so we are talking about mainly Krosa for today, as it's expected to near Japan over the next 36 to 48 hours or so before eventually curving out to sea, but there could be marginal to slight impacts for parts of Japan, including Tokyo, which holds all millions of people there. So that's why we're covering this threat today. So if we take a look at the forecast cone over the next 5 days or so, we have the system still as a tropical storm over the next 24 to 36 hours or so, before likely peaking out near typhoon strength near the coast of Japan, before eventually it starts to curve off towards the northeast, still a tropical storm at around hour 60, before becoming post-tropical at around hour 72. So in around 3 days or so, it should become a post-tropical cyclone, before then speeding off towards the international dateline by around day 5. But again, the impacts will likely occur outside of the cone, so parts of Japan, southeastern Japan, are in that marginal threat level, again mainly for rain and wind, and the same story is true for parts of even more extreme southeastern Japan where there's slight impacts possible. I don't expect any moderate impacts. I don't think that this will have typhoon force winds on parts of Japan, just because the system's typhoon's winds will likely be on the eastern side. Now, taking a look at the global view of tropics right now, let's talk about this. We have a lot to talk about. This is one of the most active days in all year, or in the entire year most of the time. So we have an area of interest in the North Atlantic, only around a 10% chance. I expect this to no longer be marked by tomorrow if there's no uptick in support, but there could be an uptrend in support, so that's why it's still marked. We have Invest 99E in the Eastern Pacific, which is likely nearly a tropical storm, or a tropical cyclone. It could already be a tropical storm over the next 40 minutes or so. It has a 90% chance of developing over the next 48 hours or so. We have a disturbance with a 50% chance in the same exact area over the next 7 days, and another area of interest with a 20% chance off the Central American coast. We also have 92C here, which is at a 30% chance, and those chances are going down as it's running out of time to develop. And we have Tropical Storm Iona, which is moving towards the west and is expected to cross over in towards the western Pacific as a tropical cyclone. Should remain out to sea though, but it's something that we'll be watching over the next week or so. We also have Invest 92W, which is no longer expected to form and nearly became a tropical cyclone, but just barely missed it. We have Tropical Storm Krosa here, which we are currently code red for, nearing Japan, and we have another disturbance which may follow a similar track as Krosa is doing. And we also have Tropical Depression Comay, which is at code yellow at this time. We also have a disturbance with a 10% chance of developing in the Philippine Sea. That's over the next 7 to 10 days. And we have two areas of interest in the Southwest Indian Ocean, one with a 10% chance over the next couple days, and one with a 20% chance over the next 7 days. So again, a lot to talk about today. If we take a look at the satellite imagery of the system of Krosa, we can see that it's quite far away from any of these other bands here. It was mostly attached for it for a while, but now it's fully separated from it. Overall, it's doing somewhat better than it was doing over the past 24 hours or so, and it is likely on a strengthening phase. If we take a look at infrared, we can see more of that convection flaring up. We can see the outflow here helping it as well, off towards the north side. And if we take a look at the current environmental conditions the system is going to experience, if we take a look at the wind shear, it's close to none right now, and generally it's going to be in a very low shear environment up until it reaches Japan and eventually speeds off towards the northeast. So overall, shear is quite low. The main factor it's going to be dealing with is going to be sea surface temperatures. We can see the cold pool it dealt or the upwelling it caused earlier Temperatures there are around 25 degrees Celsius. But overall, it's going over waters that are around 27 to 29 degrees Celsius. So again, quite warm. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. It won't really become a problem until it curves away from Japan. That's when it reaches those colder waters. And if we take a look at oceanic heat content, generally not much at all. So the slower it moves, the more it's going to upwell and more or less time that it has to take advantage of those sea surface temperatures. Alright, and if we look at moisture, I don't know what this is right there, but generally it's in a moist environment. There will be, of course, drier air as it moves towards the northeast, and that will likely also kill off any chance of strengthening further beyond that. Now if we take a look at the distance from Krosa, and yes, it's up to 50 knots. Let's see what the forecast says. The forecast calls for to near typhoon strength. Tokyo is now outside of that cone of uncertainty, but again, Tokyo could receive slight to, or marginal to slight impacts, excuse me. And currently its distance away from those areas, if we take a look, generally around 600 to 700 kilometers away from Tokyo, generally around 800, around 600 kilometers away from the closest point of Japan. And looking out anywhere else, not really expected to move or impact anywhere else other than southeastern Japan. But if we take a look at some of the other areas that it was around, Guam, it's roughly around 1,800 to 1,900 kilometers away. So again, it's pretty far away from any land masses, excluding Tokyo. Now if we take a look at some of the model runs, the European model does show some slight strengthening, not a whole lot, but it does have it moving northeast past Japan and then becoming a post-tropical storm over really the next 3 to 4 days. It also shows Comay moving inland and stalling over China, and it also shows that other disturbance which may develop near Japan. Shouldn't be too much of a concern though. And we can see also Iona entering the western Pacific and curving off towards the north. Now if we take a look at the American run, showing some strengthening happening potentially to a typhoon as it nears Japan before eventually speeding off towards the northeast towards the Alachua Islands of Alaska, but mainly staying off towards the north. Doesn't show a whole lot of development with that other system. That's why, again, we've only given it a 20% chance of development, but it does show Iona continuing off westwards. If we take a look at the German run, it does show some strengthening, again potentially to a typhoon as it nears Japan, before eventually curving off towards the northeast and becoming a post-tropical cyclone. Iona, by the time it reaches the western Pacific, still just a weak tropical cyclone, and not showing a whole lot on that other disturbance. If we take a look at the Canadian run, it doesn't show a whole lot of strengthening, but what it does show is it shows what we call a Fujiwara interaction with that other disturbance. They circle around one another, which in this run it keeps Krosa away from Japan. But if it does, if Krosa is a little bit farther north, it could slingshot it towards Tokyo. I don't really think that's going to be likely at all. Just a possibility with that Fujiwara interaction, which we've seen a lot of over the past week or two. Before eventually it speeds off towards the northeast, and it does have Iona becoming a solid tropical storm in the far eastern portion of the western Pacific, near the international date line. Now if we take a look at ensembles of the system, generally it's quite split on where it will go. Most of them have it off towards the east away from Japan, but some do have it moving towards Japan or maybe even over Japan. If we take a look at ensembles here, and we can see Iona listed right here. We can see Krosa right there, and then we can see the next disturbance right there. And if we pull up Krosa here and look at all the ensembles, again generally showing it moving towards the northeast, but could be a possibility it moves over Japan. And if we take a look at the American ensembles on the system, we can see again some of them show that Fujiwara interaction happening, and it pulls it away from Japan briefly, and some of them do show a possible landfall on the far southeastern tip of Japan, but most of them have it curving away. And if we pull up the ensembles on here, I forgot to fully load up this website. Again, you can see the upwelling here in terms of the sea surface temperatures. But if we pull up the American ensembles on this system, We can see here, generally, all of them nearly show it recurving out away from Japan. Now, if we take a look at the Joint Typhoon Warning Center forecast, now this is out of date, so I'm going to refresh this. Generally showing it moving a little bit more towards the east, I'd say. But if we talk about the forecast, though, it forecasts it to be around 50 knots as of right now, and 55 knots over the next 12 hours or so, before eventually reaching 60 knots over the next 24 to 36 hours. Could see a typhoon peak somewhere in here before it gradually weakens towards a 55 knot system, 50 knots, 40, and 35. Most likely it becomes post-tropical somewhere in here. It does show the possibility of tropical storm force winds impacting Tokyo. And again, that is a major city with over, it's in the tens of millions of people, so that's why the code level is so high. Mainly the popularity due to the earthquake and tsunami, and the fact that a lot of people are getting impacted by this. Now, if we take a look at the satellite imagery and radar, it is going to be entering in radar range soon, but there isn't really any data right in this section of it. So, but we could see radar data over the next 12 to 24 hours, and this will help us determine its core, things like that. And if we take a look at the rainfall accumulation over the next 5 days or so, again, not a whole lot of rain for parts of Japan. This is the European run, generally showing around 10 millimeters for parts of Tokyo, and higher amounts of up to 40 millimeters. If we take a look at the American run, showing slightly higher totals of around 100 millimeters for parts of far southeastern Japan, and around 25 millimeters for Tokyo. German run, showing again around 100 millimeters of a max total in parts of far southeastern Japan, and around 13 millimeters of rain for parts of Japan. And the MSM model here, over the next 3 days, again showing around 130 millimeters for southeastern Japan, and around 15 to 17 millimeters of rain in Tokyo. So generally around 10 to 20 millimeters of rain possible in Tokyo, and maybe around 100 to 150 millimeters possible as a maximum in far southeastern Japan. Alright, now if we take a look at, or here's a look at the visible imagery on the Himawari sector, mesosector. Again, it's pretty far out, so some of the outflow of it is starting to reach parts of northern Japan. But overall here you can see just how broad the circulation actually is. Alright, now let's answer some questions. Well, before I do that, I'm going to cover Comay real quick. Looking at Comay, it is likely a tropical depression now over parts of China, just northeast, or northwest, of Japan, or of Shanghai, and is roughly around 150 to 200 kilometers away from Shanghai right now. Generally, it's going to be stalling over the region over the next several days, dumping high amounts of rain. Generally, only around slight impacts are expected out of that. On this, you could see general totals of upwards of 200 millimeters of rain possible on the European run. The American run showing much lower totals, only around 80 millimeters of rain. If we take a look at the German run, showing higher totals of up to, again, 200 millimeters of rain. And that's about it for that. And we can pull up the radar imagery on here. Thought that would work. And there it is. So you can generally see where the center is compared to Shanghai, and that's moving towards the northwest pretty slowly. Alright, now let's answer some questions. LTW says, by the way, Typhoon Krosa has the highest amount of ACE at 7.45. This is as of right now. Is that the highest ACE internationally right now? In the Northern Hemisphere, at least, this year. I'm going to double check by looking at my analysis sheets. I think Eric holds that. Okay, Western Pacific, it beats out every other storm. And yeah, it beats out Flossie. Okay. Yeah, so that's the highest ace storm of the Northern Hemisphere year so far. Wow. And this wasn't really that strong, so thanks for pointing that out. TC says, I think Krosa might become a Typhoon again briefly. It is very possible. We could see a Typhoon peak for just around 6 hours or less before it eventually starts weakening and curves off towards the northeast into those cooler waters. TC points out 92W. Now, 92W is an interesting case because it could have been a brief tropical cyclone. Not really 92W, but the disturbance off towards its northeast. If we pull up imagery at around 0 UTC, or 0 UTC, we can see that here's 92W, and we have this circulation right here. You might barely be able to make out that there is somewhat of a circulation in there. And we can see that there's sustaining thunderstorms. The thing is that this we had a scatterometer pass here showing that there wasn't quite a full circulation. It was more so just a trough that was nearly a circulation. So you can pretty much infer that it was a solid circulation by around 6 UTC. And that's when we're getting the sustainment requirement going. And we pull up around 12 UTC. It's still generally sustaining around the center. But by the time it reaches 18 UTC, that's when it's likely around a post-tropical cyclone. So it doesn't seem like it became a tropical cyclone, but it came very close to one. I'll do some further analysis on this to confirm, but personally I don't have it as one just yet. 92W, I don't think that one became one either. Didn't really have any sustaining convection on it. And by the time it did, the center got torn apart. Mackenzie asks if Iona can make it into the Philippine area of responsibility. Well, in my opinion, I don't think that's going to be possible with the system. It's generally going to be wanting to curve towards the northeast, or towards the north, I meant. Generally towards the northwest, not due west. Even if it curved up towards the north, I don't think that's really going to enter the Philippine area of responsibility too far north. Models have been downtrending on this quite significantly, due to how poorly it's been doing right now. Okay, I don't know why that's zooming in there. But winds are right now around 65 miles an hour. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more so around 50 miles an hour at this time. Mackenzie asks if Krosa makes landfall in Japan. It's quite uncertain. I'd give it around a 25 or 20. No, I'd give it around a 15 to 25% chance of it actually making landfall. Generally looks like it's going to miss it though, just towards the east, just offshore. Now Mackenzie asks if 99E is going to become a hurricane. Well, this system took a little while to organize. Okay, yeah, it's likely a tropical cyclone at this point. We got a lot of sustaining convection over a center that was nearly organized around 9 hours ago. So it's likely a tropical cyclone at this time. And if we pull that up on satellite imagery, whoops. Here we can see that sustaining convection now, and it's likely a tropical cyclone, and we should see advisories initiate on it any moment now. But overall, looking at the forecast for that system, I'm going to use the European AI model. And if I open this up, generally does show it strengthening up until the next 60 hours or so. So it doesn't have a whole lot of time to organize. I feel like a hurricane is possible if we look at the European run, generally showing a strong tropical storm, maybe minimal hurricane. The GFS run is showing most likely a hurricane in that. The German run generally showing a high-end tropical storm to low-end hurricane, and the Canadian model showing a weaker tropical storm. So I do think that hurricane is possible. I don't really think a major hurricane, I don't think that we're going to get a major hurricane out of that. I saw someone also mentioning a Flossie repeat out of that. I don't think so. I think it's more so not really wind shear that's going to impact it. It's going to mainly be the lower sea surface temperatures and drier air. Yep, there it goes. LT says the storm is pretty deep for pressure, but it is fairly weak compared to before. I believe you're talking about Krosa. Pressure, you stated before, 978 millibars, not as low as it was before, as before it was in the low 960s, so not as quite as low as it was before. But yeah, this could be the, I don't think that this is going to be the ultimate peak. I still believe that the peak is going to be where it was before at around 75 to 80 knots. See, Lewis asked, what would you say Komay's landfall intensity near Shanghai was? Oh, wait, no, hold on. Sorry, there was a question before that. Mackenzie asked if the Atlantic system will be, would become a hurricane. It's honestly too far out to say for sure. It's going to have to battle all this Saharan dust. So I don't really see it. I don't see it becoming a hurricane at all. Really, the only chance it will get to develop is if it makes a northeastern curve up towards places like Nova Scotia. Other than that, it's just going to be moving towards Florida as a rainy tropical wave. So the question was, how strong do I think it was at landfall? I haven't, or Comay at landfall. I haven't done that just yet. I was planning to do that with an amazing tropical enthusiast named Luis Lopez. I was planning to do that in a moment, or maybe tomorrow or sometime. So, Luis, I don't know quite yet. I know that there was a surface observation supporting around like 50 to 55 knots at landfall. So it could have been a stronger storm. I mean, the eye was, it was getting an eye wall kind of together, kind of getting that core together. So it could have been stronger than we initially thought. Speaking of which, Mackenzie asked if Comay is a zombie cyclone. It technically is. Not really towards the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. They've kept it as a tropical cyclone the whole time. Personally, I believe it became a remnant low and then it came back. It does kind of meet the classification of a zombie tropical cyclone when it comes to stuff like Paulette. I think it's Paulette was the one in 2020 in the North Atlantic. LT asked, how strong do you think a major Hurricane Iona is? I haven't estimated it just yet. I'm nearly at the point of estimating its peak intensity. There was a SAR pass, basically a satellite pass dealing with, I believe, salinity, that confirmed it might have been a mid-range Category 4. I feel like that is a possibility given the fact that it had a pinhole eye. So again, those kind of storms are somewhat stronger than broader eyes. Broader cores. Haven't done the analysis just yet. I'll probably do that tomorrow. No, I'll probably do it tonight, actually. I just realized I don't have a whole lot of time. Let's see, will the next advisory on Iona should be out in the next half hour or so. Yes. Oh, it's out now. It has it as a 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm. Weakens to 45 and keeps it as a tropical storm for a majority of the, that would be the 12 to 96 hour period, before eventually becoming a tropical depression at hour 120. It's a difficult thing to forecast. Mackenzie asked if I have the Southwest Indian Ocean system. Yes, I do. I have both of them tagged. We could get 2 tropical cyclones there over the next 7 days. American ensembles are showing quite a lot of support on that eastern one, not a whole lot of support on that western one. European AI run does show, again, generally 2 areas of broad circulations that we could see tropical cyclones out of over the next 7 days. That's why both of them are marked. And yes, Mackenzie states the fact that Iona was crazy going from a tropical storm to Category 4. Yes, that's what happens with these tiny cores. They can really get going quite quickly. Yes, Luis says Iona's going to be fun to do. Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a major hurricane out to sea for quite a while. I don't think the last one was Flossie. Mackenzie asks, what's the next Central Pacific name after Kilai? Iona says it is Lala. Interesting. Again, if you have any other questions, you can leave them in the chat and I will gladly answer them to the best of my ability. And if we pull up the radar imagery on Tropical Depression Comay, here's a look at what it was looking like over the past, I believe, 24 hours or so. No, past 12. I believe this is the past 12 hours or so, yeah. Of course, gradually getting weaker. Still a lot of rain bands, especially on the northwestern part of the storm. It's been mostly on the northwestern part of the storm the whole time here because all that moisture just funneling in. Again, probably some hazardous rip currents for parts of northeastern China. Yep. Still no Category 5s yet in the Northern Hemisphere. 92C is an interesting case right now. I mean, it is flaring up a lot of thunderstorms, but it was confirmed that it's opened up to a trough, not really a circulation, and it looks like these thunderstorms are going to be killing off that circulation. I don't really see it developing. Kilai is now a remnant low, just it again opened up to a trough, so no more circulation. 90E should get a tropical cyclone any moment now. Yes, Mackenzie, there could be a system impacting the Philippines beyond the 7-day range. I will cover that now. If we pull up pull up the Western Pacific, excuse me, the European AI model does, for some reason, show a the remnants of 92W kind of funneling down and becoming a tropical cyclone, which I don't think that's going to happen. But it does show generally a wave or just a trough here moving in towards the Philippines around the 7-day range. If we take a look at the European ensembles and what they think on it, this is the 18Z1s showing more of an, not really an increase in support, but the 12Z did show that. And I believe the American ensembles did as well, somewhat there. So that's why it's marked as around a 10% chance. Mackenzie also asked about the North Indian Ocean. I don't think that there was anything to look at in the North Indian Ocean. Maybe beyond the 7-day range, but not really seeing much. Yeah, not really seeing much on this either. So it seems like it might get a little bit more quiet in the North Indian Ocean after all those land depressions. Do you think that the Southwest Indian Ocean will have another active season? I don't know. I don't really like to forecast that far out because you can easily be wrong. It's all 1 week can change the basin dramatically. Well, that is about it. LT asked one last question. If I look at the ensembles in the North Atlantic, GFS ensembles, we're seeing a little bit of an uptick in support on something developing over the next 10 days or so. European has also ticked up on this as well, something that we might have to watch out for in the longer range. The Climate Prediction Center did mark it generally over the main development region. That's really all I have time for today. Thank you all so much for watching, and here, actually, if I want to check what the comments were in the last video, just so I make sure that in case there was any other questions that I can answer them. This was for Comay. No comments. Well, thank you all so much for watching, and I will do my best to keep you updated. Maybe another stream in the next 2 days, maybe even a landfall stream by the time it nears Japan. But that is all I have for you today. Just to stay up to date, and generally there shouldn't be really any more threats for a little while, so we should get a break after Krosa. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next update. Stay safe.